Wanderers, today I joined the devs in the Sanctuary Discord for the upcoming PTR for Season 10. We got to talk about all of the things that will be changing and will be available in the PTR. I wanted to leave everybody with this before you hop into what the sit-down was like. This is going to be the public test realm notes. So there will be changes coming to the upcoming season that we will not see in these notes. These are not final. These are absolutely 100% subject to change. So if there are any nerfs or there are any buffs that you do not agree with, make sure you leave some feedback. And for those of you out there that wanted to see an actual campfire chat, that is still coming. When we get closer to Season 10, they will have a full-blown campfire chat, what you're used to. They're actually working on revamping that setup. I'm excited to see what they bring. In that campfire chat, they will cover a lot more about Season 10 and what we can expect in that. But for now, take a listen to the Sanctuary sit-down in the Discord server. This was an audio only. I put a little visual in there for you guys, but you get to watch it right here. Wanderers, welcome to the Sanctuary sit-down, a series where members of the Diablo community like me get a chance to chat with the developers about upcoming seasonal content. I'm your host, Cliptis. Joining me today are three of the developers that are going to walk us through what to expect during the upcoming public test realm. Before we get into the good stuff, let's get some introductions out. Aislinn, you want to start?
Sure, yeah. I'm Aislinn Hall. I'm a systems designer working on Diablo 4, mostly working on seasonal stuff at the moment, like Season 10.
All right. Ben,
Hey,
this is
I'm
your...
Ben Fletcher. I'm the lead designer for Season 10.
And hi, I'm Charles Dunn. Working on the final design team. I mostly do class design work. And for Season 10, I worked on the Chaos perks.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for being here. So Charles, let's start with you. What are some of the things that we're working on for Season 10?
Let's talk about Chaos perks. It seems like someone's saying my audio is a little low, so I'm going to try to talk loud, I guess. Or let me take a look at Dane. Must be right. You can also update volume on Discord in particular. So for Season 10, I want to talk a little bit about kind of the concept of seasonal powers and kind of, how we've thought about it in previous seasons and a little bit about how we're thinking about them now here in Season 10 and moving forward. We've had a number of seasons where we introduced like some seasonal powers, in the season of Witchcraft, we had the witch powers and the boss powers and so on. And a lot of times when we think about building your character, you build up your character in kind of multiple layers where you get your basic skills or like your skill that you pick in your skill tree, then your items on top of that, and your paragon, and then kind of the like icing on the cake, the top layer is kind of those seasonal powers. And we add in a new seasonal power, and it modifies your build a little bit, makes it a little different flavor. But then a lot of the feedback we've heard from players is that next season you kind of scrape off that icing and then put on a new flavor of icing. And so kind of the running joke is like, well, what flavor is the next season going to bring? And we thought here for Season 10, we really want to disrupt that pattern where we're not looking at just kind of surface layer powers that are just kind of added on and removed. We're really looking at, to continue the cake analogy, right, is looking at changing up the filling of the cake, the kind of connective tissue between your builds with our seasonal offerings. To be able to be like, hey, here's something that actually just fundamentally changes how you play your character. It's not just an extra effect that just, is added on top of everything else. And so with that in mind, we build what we call Chaos perks. And calling them perks kind of differentiates them from the kind of power designs that we've had in the past, where it really is focusing in on this kind of connective tissue in between the kind of layers of your classes, your skills, your actual skills, and your itemization. And so we built this seasonal power system really all about making sure it hooks into your skills. It influences your build in ways that we have not really done before with seasonal powers in the past. Then also speaking of item builds, we're going to be talking a little bit later about Chaos Armor. I think Aislinn will be covering a lot of that, which is also kind of another take on how we took the learnings of previous seasonal powers and kind of feedback we've gotten around that and use that to iterate and make a more interesting and engaging system here moving forward.
I'm actually very excited to hear about these seasonal powers. So with the way that we're approaching this, so we're still thinking about seasonal powers, but this is now going to be something that we're going to just add extra layers on, because you said armor, and now it's going to be moving to perks. So is this going to be something that we're going to be looking to do going into every season now?
Wouldn't commit to future seasons. We're here talking about the season 10 PTR and how we're really looking at that. I think it's definitely something that the entire team has taken feedback in on, and we're going to be using that to influence our future design directions. But mainly want to talk about what's coming in season 10 and not necessarily on future seasons, which are still in development.
Okay, that is awesome. So we got Ben here. We have actually, I have a graphic here that I want to put up on the screen that maybe we can talk about here. Let me just get this up. All right, can anybody see the graphic here?
It looks like your screen is loading something. There it is. It just popped in for me. All right, so what you're seeing there is a Chaos Rift. So before I really get into what Chaos Rifts are, let's just talk about Chaos. The theme of the season is Chaos. So basically, kind of the narrative wrapper here is Mephisto's been free to wander around Sanctuary for a little while now, and we're starting to see the impacts of that. Basically, his very presence is weakening the veil between heaven and hell, and that's making these Chaos Rifts pop up throughout the land. So in the season, you're going to be closing these Chaos Rifts. A Chaos Rift is basically a one-way portal from hell, bring demons with it. We've got a new family of demon, a Chaos family that has some unique, fun twists on it. But anyways, you're going to be killing them, closing the rifts, and that's how you're going to be getting your reputation, your seasonal currency, stuff like that. So the main place that you'll start encountering these as you begin the game will be in Helltides. You'll be going through Helltides. You'll see these markers pop up on your map. It looks a lot like an offering marker from Infernal Hordes. And that's because it's got a similar function to it in that these don't just open by themselves. You actually have to go up and opt into the experience. And so you'll be able to see the rift name. You'll be able to see the rewards associated with it before you interact with it. And that, at the beginning, you're probably just going to be opening, closing all the ones that you come across. But as you get deeper into the experience, and you've encountered a lot of these, kind of what's in each one, what each one entails, then you can start making informed decisions on like, okay, yeah, this one I definitely want to do because I'm chasing that reward, or I just really enjoy the gameplay of this one. And other ones like, what, I'm not really looking for that thing, and I can just move on with my experience, and it's not opening by itself and forcing me into the engagement. Also, this being in Helltides, if you're actually trying to focus on something else in Helltides, like fighting blood maidens or collecting cinders and stuff like that, then because these are opt-into, they're not going to be pulling you away from the thing that you're trying to focus on. But it's not all Helltides, especially in that pre-torment experience. We wanted to work in some more activities kind of into that leveling loop. So by closing the rifts in Helltides, you can actually find a new kind of Nightmare Dungeon sigil that's got the Chaos Rift affix. And by using that, it takes you into a special Nightmare Dungeon that's dense with Chaos Rifts and Chaos Monster family monsters. So really high density on the rewards that you get from those things. And then the third step is closing the rifts that are in those Nightmare Dungeons. You have a chance to get what's called a Fleeting Compass. Sounds awfully close to an Infernal Compass that gets you into Infernal Hordes. Well, that's the idea. We've made an abbreviated pre-torment version of Infernal Hordes for you to engage with in the pre-torment experience. Basically, it's shortened down, so it's only 4 waves, and you're only facing off against 2 of the Fell Council at the end instead of all 3 members. But it's still like monster dense. It's still reward dense. They're going to be pretty rare to come across, but it's definitely worth your time to do them because of the extra experience and rewards you're going to get from doing those. Once you move into the hit level 60, max out your characters, get moving into those torment tiers, then the focus really shifts into our updates that we've made around Infernal Hordes. So we've made some updates to the existing Infernal Hordes. We've taken, the offerings that have been underperforming in the past or just weren't as fun and tried to bring those up to the same level as like the Hellborn offerings that have been so popular in the last few seasons. On top of that, we've also made some minor adjustments to the Fell Council fight to make it more interesting and more enjoyable to do. But the biggest changes to Infernal Hordes come from chaos being injected into them. As you're going through your waves, you'll occasionally see a fourth offering option pop up, and that fourth option will always be a chaos offering that'll lead to a chaos wave. And the chaos waves are quite a bit different than your standard Infernal Hordes waves. Instead of the Aether events that you see during a standard wave and the boons and banes that are also associated with that, there are no boons and banes for the chaos risk, but they are very dense with Aether. They're, if you can perform well, if you could do good, then you're going to get the most Aether from a single wave by doing these. Also, the gameplay is different. They're almost shaped after like a mini game type mentality. Like one of my favorites kind of flips things on its head, and instead of destroying etheric masses, they put an etheric mass in the middle of the arena, and then you've got the lunatics, the exploding guys, throwing themselves at it from every direction trying to destroy it, and your job is to defend it from them. And when you get to the end of the wave, the more health that mass has, the more Aether you're going to earn from that wave. And all that leads into the new boss fight that we have available at the end of Infernal Hordes, and that's against Bartok, the new boss for the season. You can still do the Fell Council fight, but now we've got an additional option of Bartok. But he's not a walk in the park. He's a tougher boss, and he also is harder. You don't just automatically get to do them. Basically, when you get to the end of your waves now, you'll be presented with two offerings. One will take you to the Fell Council, just the normal experience. You don't need to buy into it. But the other offering actually has an upfront Aether cost to get into it. So you have to have performed well enough in your waves to be able to afford to fight Bartok, first of all. And the way that we're tuning that for a 10-wave compass, it's pretty doable, especially as you get deeper into Torment and get better and better at it. But then it starts becoming a lot harder with a 6 or 8-wave compass, where you really have to perform well if you're going to be able to afford to get into the Bartok fight. And the other thing about the Bartok fight is it is a lot more difficult than the Fell Council. The fight itself is a lot more complex. It's kind of a bullet hell style where we've got teleporters in the arena, and you're having to teleport back and forth and avoid these massive just screen clearing attacks that he has. And it's just got a lot more flavor to the boss fight. But the big reason you want to do him, he's going to be more rewarding than the Fell Council. But the biggest reason is he is your best shot at getting the new Chaos armor that we haven't talked about yet. Aislin's going to touch on the Chaos armor in just a moment. But basically, your best chance at collecting that armor is going to be to fight Bartok.
And I'm excited. The Infernal Hordes are probably one of my favorite content out there. So you said that this is going to be pre-Torment. You can start unlocking it just by going straight into Helltides. Is there a minimum level requirement to get there, or you can just open it up?
So the stuff that I was just talking about with the Bartok fight in the full-blown Infernal Hordes, that's still only once you get to Torment tiers. We have like a special, like smaller version that actually doesn't even have the Chaos Waves in it. It's just a smaller version of the pre-Chaos Infernal Hordes that you can do now pre-Torment, and there's not a level requirement. Though, if you just, take a level 1 character and go straight into there, you're probably going to get wiped pretty hard. So, a soft level requirement of, you need to have a little bit of gear, which you should have. To get in there, you will have had to do Helltides for a little while, found the Nightmare Dungeon with the Nightmare Dungeon Sigil with the Chaos Rift affix, run a couple of those, and then gotten one of these fleeting compasses to get you into there. So we don't have a hard cap on it, but just naturally playing, you should be at a level that is appropriate once you unlock that.
Okay, that's cool. I like that we're adding in new stuff to the leveling process to kind of mix up what we're doing and where to go and what we're doing. So that's awesome.
Yeah, we wanted to have a little bit more variety to that 1 to 60 leveling experience that we haven't always had in previous seasons.
That is very cool. Now, I know we've talked a lot about the Chaos armor, but I want to share one more graphic. I'm going to swap this graphic around, and I'm going to go back to you, Charles, because we didn't get to show the perks, so I wanted to get that up on this screen. So let me just get that real quick.
Yeah, I think we talk a little bit about like the overall philosophy of seasonal powers and the perks and how they're adjusting here. To talk through a little bit of the details of like the exact mechanics of it. I think that's what bring up kind of visual of how it all work. So I think one of the cool parts about this system compared to previous systems is that we have class specific chaos perks. So in the past, our seasonal powers were generic across the classes, right? Everyone had the access to the exact same set of things. Maybe some classes preferred ones over the other, but your tool set was identical. Here we have the ability with class specific ones to actually make ones that directly hook into your class mechanics. So we see an example here with Defile the Dead for necromancers, specifically allowing you to use each corpse twice. So this way, hey, use corpse explosion on corpse. The corpse is still there until you do it a second time, and then consumes it. So this really like changes kind of your corpse economy in the necro build, as well as creating a chaotic burst, which is kind of a power that many of these powers, these chaos perks use. But I think this is really cool that it allows us to look at different class mechanics, and there are still some generic effects here, but there are 4 class specific perks per class. And so to really get, to see all the things that are available across this entire system, you're going to need to take a look at class. In terms of like how you're actually going to interact with it, pretty straightforward and pretty similar to some previous seasonal powers, just because we think that a lot of the complexity here is in their actual effects and how they impact your build. Obviously, Defile the Dead here, this example is relatively straightforward in terms of what it does, but there are definitely ones that have a lot bigger modifications to your build that really ask you to like play very different, use your skills in different ways, or itemize totally separately than you would have before to really take advantage of it. And so because there's like a bit more of a complexity of ask there in terms of like what you want to do to use these effects, actually like socketing them in is relatively straightforward, right? You can 3 of the non-unique perks, the magic, rare, and legendary. So any 3 of those, along with 1 unique perk. The unique ones are definitely like the biggest change up. The biggest like ones that change up your build, the kind of the most dramatic adjustments and require the biggest ask to work.
That's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited to see what the other classes have in store. This is definitely a pretty big change, going from everything just being generic and used all over. Like it should help with some of the diversity with the classes. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you'll definitely find uses for some of the generics across each class, but definitely the class specific ones are the ones that have will definitely make it feel very different from class to class. It's not just like, oh, I'm going to run the exact same set of powers on every class, every character that I play. And you're going to get a lot of new options across every class to kind of empower brand new builds that we may not have seen before because of these perks.
Yeah, I think something that's really worth emphasizing about the chaos perk system and how it differentiates itself from seasonal power is kind of what you're digging into here. Like we see here, it says you can consume each corpse twice. Like that's an effect that's going to change how you're thinking about your build. And that just wasn't something that you typically got from seasonal power before. Like you'd probably get something that was like, oh, you call a bunch of awesome magic that explodes everything, but it's not necessarily changing the way you're thinking about your core skill or changing the way you're thinking about your other tagged skills. And all of these chaos perks are keying into that. And the fact that there are some that also key into class specific stuff lets us go even deeper into that philosophy, which is really cool.
Yeah, just to throw out some examples to talk through, like unstable power is one of the magic ones. And it says that your basic skills are going to be guaranteed to critically strike and overpower and deal increased damage, which is huge. But the downside is that your basic skills now have a 3-second cooldown. And so in order to like really fully utilize this, you need to be looking at cooldown reduction for your basic skill build. You need to be looking at other effects that can reduce that. Or possibly you do some cooldown reduction and you play multiple basic skills so that while one's on cooldown, you can cast the other one. And so this is like a new pattern. Like we're giving you a huge benefit, right? Guaranteed crit, guaranteed overpower. You don't need to build crit strike. You don't need to build overpower. Or you build overpower damage. And you get a ton of damage up front, but you have a different problem to solve. And I think that's like really the sweet spot for these types of perks, where it gives you a huge benefit, but also asks you to do something different in your build that you might not have done before. Really take full advantage.
I cannot wait to get my hands on it. Now, we have been talking a lot about Chaos Armor. It's come up a couple times. I am pretty excited to dive into this. So, Aislinn, we've already heard a lot about the season, but let's talk about the Chaos Armor. I'm going to get the screenshot up on the monitor while you hop into it.
Sure, sounds good. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about Bartuk. We talked a little bit about the seasonal theme of chaos. So I want you guys to go on a little bit of a word journey with me here. So you're the hero of Sanctuary. You're going around, you're bopping demons on the head. You go into the Infernal Hordes, you bop the demons on the head. You finish that. You get to Bartuk here at the end. What do? You bop him on the head. He falls over. Loot explodes outward. And what do you see on the ground? You see a different color that you haven't seen before. That is Chaos Armor. So, Chaos Armor is a new type of itemization that we are adding to the game in Season 10. It is seasonal itemization. So, we didn't want to just do chaos perks this season. We also wanted to mix it up even more because it's the season of chaos. So we want things to get crazy. And it's going to live for the entire duration of Season 10. And there are two things about Chaos Armor that are pretty unique. And for the people asking in chat, it's like a greenish color. Yes, it's kind of green. It will be pretty distinct. But anyways, there are two distinct things about Chaos Armor that you're going to notice. So you might see an Ophidian Iris here, and you might know that that came in Season 9 and was a sorcerer unique amulet. But you also might notice that in this tooltip, it's not an amulet. It is a helmet. So Chaos Armor transforms the slot of uniques that you've seen before into new slots. So you can find Chaos Armor in any of the 5 armor slots, which is going to be the helmet, the chest piece, the gloves, legs, and boots. And this really opens up a ton of build crafting opportunities. Like, for example, you might really want to find a Shaco or an Air of Perdition on your helmet. And then you might also have another helmet unique that you'd really love to wear, but you can't because, you can't have 2 helmets. But with Chaos Armor, you can because you can find that unique item as Chaos Armor instead and put it in a different slot. Now, not every unique is going to be Chaos Armor. We have a curated list. However, a pretty significant majority of the uniques in the game are going to be capable of dropping as Chaos Armor. Another thing I want to touch on with this system is that we know a lot of people are going to lair bosses and, living there and just bopping them on the head over and over. And that's where they go to target farm their unique items. We don't necessarily want that to always be the case. So Chaos Armor is not going to primarily be found from fighting lair bosses. There are going to be other places you're going to go to find it, in particular, Infernal Hordes and fighting Bartuk. We really want to mix that up so you can actually go to different activities in the game and, have fun with fresh new experiences. But the second thing about Chaos Armor, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, is that the unique aspect is more powerful as well. So you might notice in these tooltips here that typically what is the blue number on a unique power is actually like a little green. So that means specifically on Chaos Armor that it's going to max roll its unique power and it's 20% more powerful. So it's not only the max roll, it's better on top of that. So not only are you getting this interesting build crafting element to Chaos Armor, it's just straight up better too. So we're really expecting some wild possibilities that are going to emerge from Chaos Armor. And we kind of had when we had a few primary goals when we were working on Chaos Armor, but the big thing is we really wanted to shake up the meta. We're really expecting builds that were, either previously underperforming to be really powerful because of the permutations that are now available via Chaos Perks and Chaos Armor in Season 10. And we also expect there to be builds that weren't even like a twinkle in our collective eye to emerge in Season 10 because of these systems and go wild. And so I cannot wait to see what people come up with these systems combined. I think Season 10 is going to be absolutely wild. I think it's going to be crazy. So I'm super excited about it. And the last thing I want to touch on before we dive into conversation is just a little bit about what we're looking for in the PTR. This is going to be in the PTR. Chaos Armor is going to be in the PTR. So our perks or the other things that Ben talked about, like Rifts and Bartek and whatnot. But with Chaos Armor specifically, we really want to get your guys' takes on are there some items that you'd love to see as Chaos Armor? Are there some that feel too powerful as Chaos Armor? Because right now we have everything balanced on a very level playing field, but we want to hear what you guys think about how the meta emerges and what's powerful and what's maybe too weak, so we can make sure that Chaos Armor is as fun as possible when it actually comes out. So yeah, I definitely recommend getting in there, talking to our dancing demon boy Mrak, and getting those Chaos Armor caches and trying it out.
Well, I honestly cannot wait to get my hands on it. So you want us to focus on the Chaos Armor And this is during the public test realm. See what's strong, what's working. If there's something else that we want to add in, was there anything else that we should be focusing on during the public test realm?
I think
I'd love,
like,
yeah, go ahead.
I was mentioned for Chaos Perk, it's similar, right? This is testing. We are here to test and preview content. It's by no means finalized for what we're actually going to end up shipping. And so like your feedback on the PTR is really important. Specifically for, I guess, the combination of the Chaos Perk system and the Chaos Armor system is, as Aislinn mentioned, making brand new builds, new things that like, hey, I've never been able to do this kind of build before, or I've never had to solve this problem, right? Whether it be, getting different, stats or cooldowns or whatever kind of combination you're trying to do. We want things to be, new builds, new avenues, new ways to play, and that it should feel very different. And we want to make sure that we're hitting that mark. And we're like giving you powerful things and reasons to be playing in different ways. And so we just really want to make sure that both these systems combined are really leading towards that goal.
Okay, so everybody heard that. We got to get some testing done to make sure that we are just giving as much feedback as we can. That is the whole purpose of the PTR. It's super important to get this testing done so we can get the best launch of the season possible. Was there anything else anybody want to cover, or we can hop into the Q&A section?
Yeah, I think we'd also love to, see people go in. Like we made a lot of changes to Infernal Hordes with the chaos stuff. I'd love to see people go in, try out the new Infernal Horde shakeup we've got, try out Chaos Waves, try out the Bartuk fart. How does it? Excuse me, fight. Maybe he does, but whatever. Yeah, try that out. And yeah, I think if I could distill it down to one sentence, I would say, please break season 10 over your knee. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on in season 10. Again, I just really want to emphasize it's the season of chaos. So please go in, try all the different combinatorics, show us what insanity you can, conjure up, and show us that we've made terrible, terrible mistakes.
That sounds like a lot of fun. So will we be getting Mrak right off the bat, or are we going to get like a day or two to do leveling testing?
Oh yeah, I think we're getting Mrak right off the bat, so you guys should be able to go in there and just get boots on the ground immediately.
That's awesome. And for anybody that does get to try out the test realm is going to be for PC Battle.net users. The leveling process sounds like it's going to change a little bit with the introduction of these new rifts for the season. So make sure you do get some level testing in just to see, so we can get some feedback for how the leveling is going to feel too.
Oh, I was just going to say, if you end up being one of our wonderful champions that does decide to level test, first of all, we love you. Thank you so much. Second of all, please, we'd love to hear what you have to think or what you have to say about Helltide and Chaos Rifts and the new Nightmare Dungeon Affix, and of course Fleeting Hordes, which is the pre-torment version of Infernal Hordes, which is mostly designed to be achievable for leveling characters, but it's probably going to be pretty tough because Infernal Hordes is just naturally fairly challenging, especially if your build's not totally ready. So get in there and try it out and let us know what you think of that too.
One of my favorite parts about this is the leveling process. So I guess we can probably hop into the Q&A section. So user Diablo 977, they asked, hope later in the chat will be revealed what will be the seasonal and what will go to the eternal realm. So what's going to stay and what's going to go?
The Chaos perks and Chaos Armor are seasonal features. These are limited to Season 10, Season of Chaos. While a lot of the changes, same with a lot of the changes to Infernal Hordes, the improvements to the boons and banes and the updated structure there are going to be permanent additions. So just like we've done in past seasons, where a lot of the systemic changes to the activities that we did in the past two boss ladder changes and Helltide and Whisper changes and so on in previous seasons, those were evergreen. Those are always in Eternal for the rest of Diablo 4. But then there was the new power systems were seasonal specific.
Okay, awesome. Ignition asked, will the transitional armor gear always be set into a different slot, or will the chaos be random? So is the armor going to stay in the same spot designated, or is it going to be a random slot that's going to go to?
Oh yeah, so when something rolls as chaos armor, it can be any of the chaos armor slots. There is one exception. So just to kind of outline this again, There are 5 slots in which Chaos Armor can drop, which is the helmet, chest, gloves, legs, and boots. The one exception, or rather, what I should say is like, let's use the example of Ophidian Iris again, which is an amulet. You can find a Chaos Armor version of Ophidian Iris in any of those 5 Chaos Armor slots. That is random. However, if there's a unique item that originally started in one of those slots, like for example, Fists of Fate is gloves typically, you won't be able to find a gloves Chaos Armor version of Fists of Fate because it was already gloves, but you would be able to find the other 4 slots for Fists of Fate.
I think a lot of people that were looking at the screenshots and saw the Ophidian Iris as a helmet and wanted to run their Shaco probably just had a big sigh of relief there. So they can still run their Harlequin's Crest and still get the Ophidian Iris in some other slot. That's awesome, honestly.
Yeah, that's the goal. You know, we want it to be very flexible. We also want to make sure that it's like an in-game chase, right? Like we want it to be something really fun to find. And that was part of the reason why we made them capable of being dropped in those 5 slots, so that like, you know, you're chasing like the perfect Chaos Armor.
That is incredibly fun. That's going to open up so many opportunities for different builds and different diversity to come out. So for the next one, Panda asked, is the Chaos Armor going to be account bound? That's a good question.
That is a great question. Chaos Armor is going to be account bound, so we want you to kind of go on your own personal chaotic journey, I guess you could say. We had a lot of conversations internally about that, so you know, drop in feedback or give us feedback if you feel differently during PTR. I know that people have mixed opinions on that, so let us know what you think. I'd love to hear from you guys, but really we wanted to make sure that, you know, people were finding Chaos Armor and they were kind of experiencing their own build path, basically. We didn't want trading to be like the best way where, you know, you go and we want you to find a Chaos Armor drop on the ground from beating Bartok or elsewhere in the game and be like, oh shit, like that's my Chaos Armor now. And have your build and your path like diverge from other people. And that kind of guides your season journey as a whole.
I like that. That's a good opportunity also for feedback. So make sure that if you are playing the PTR and you feel differently, definitely leave that feedback. Glitchmeister asked, is there a way that skills on each class could get an additional changes in a way that makes them more unique and have multiple playstyles? So an example was making the Druid's Earth Magic become Volcanic, making his Storm Magic become Frost Winds, making the Sorcerer's Infernal instead summon a giant serpent and spew walls of fire, making Deep Freeze rain down the cold meteorites, or something like that along the lines of those.
I talk to this a bit. I think that's some really cool suggestions there. And I think there's definitely an appetite for like, hey, I like this skill, but I'd love to play it in a different way. And there's a number of ways like we try to deliver on that. You know, obviously we've got existing legendaries and uniques that mix up how skills work in the game. We're trying that a bit more now with the chaos perk system, where they are affecting some of those skills in similar ways, where it's like, hey, what you used to know about how the skill worked is now very different. Alternative playstyle. I think one of the best examples in the chaos perk system is the Necromancer unique one, Alter the Balance, which affects your core and ultimate skills and basically swaps them how they work. That's definitely like design space we're really interested in exploring moving forward. And we are starting to do that a little bit here in season 10. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see more big playstyle swaps and modifications to skills like that in future content. But that's not something we can give too much detail on at this time.
Okay, well, I mean, that sounds good. So Dante asked, can you bring some seasonal powers from previous seasons into a permanent edition like rings that have powers from season 1 or an aspect from season 2? I know that this is something that people have asked in the past.
Yeah, that is something that we did on a couple of those earlier seasons, where we brought some of the favorite powers back as unique items, as kind of one-offs. And that's definitely like something we look at and could consider for future finds. Definitely ones that really resonate with players. I definitely know there were some, previous seasonal powers that players really loved and would love to see back. And trust me, the dev team has heard that. When we hear that, like, oh, you really like this one power, I'd love to see it back in some way. We've taken note of that, and we'd love to keep hearing that. And we're looking for the right time and right place, right system to kind of put that in. It's not always just, oh, put it on a new unique, because then we end up getting a bunch of you're limited on the exact number of uniques you can have. Maybe there's other systems that we can deliver some of the fan favorite powers from seasons past in. So definitely keep giving us that feedback. We're listening. We're absolutely making note and finding the right spot to reincorporate some of those favorite powers again.
All right, looks like we are at time. But thank you everybody for coming out today. Thank you for hanging out while we figured out how to get this up and running. We appreciate your patience very, very much. This was a really, really great turnout. I'm very excited to be able to sit down with everybody and talk about all of this stuff. I'm pretty excited to get onto the public test realm. Make sure you get on, do your testing. It is very important to leave some feedback. You can do that on the forums. It's a really great place for everybody to leave what you get to do and what you get to see. So we're really looking forward to this. It looks like we're going to be getting the PTR starting on the 19th is when we're going to hit. So if you guys can look out for that, we're going to be doing that. You can download that through the Battle.net client. But thanks, team, everybody. Everybody, thank you. I really appreciate this. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, great to be here. Can't wait to see what kind of chaos you guys get up to.
Thanks for having us.